up, scientists? It is time to grab our lab coats and our goggles as today is our final day exploring with the water cycle. We are going to wrap up any explorations that we need to finish, and we're going to talk about why the sun has a critical role in the water cycle. Now, before we get into our lesson today and our final activity or our post assessment, let's look on our essential questions first. Now, let's talk about our essential question. Remember, essential questions in science and in different lessons can help us think about what we already know about a topic, and it helps us connect to new ideas that we're going to learn today to help us produce a new thought about the topic. Our essential questions will be focused on our different science topics. So look for keywords. In those keywords, the minute you see them and recognize them, I want you to think, what do I already know about this topic? Once you have that in your mind, you want to look at the question again to see what we're trying to answer today or what are we trying to answer about that topic. It's important to remember that an essential question is like a goal as well. By the end of our science lesson, you should confidently be able to answer the essential question. Let's go over our essential question for today. All of these essential questions are so important to listen to today because it's our final day exploring with them. So we should be able to think of an answer in our heads after we read these aloud together today. I'll read them first and then you read them with me the second time. The first one, what is the water cycle? Say it with me. What is the water cycle? The second one, how does water move in the water cycle above and on the surface of the earth? Say that one with me. How does water move in the water cycle above and on the surface of the earth? And our last one, listen to me first. What is the major source of energy that moves water through the water cycle? Read that one with me. What is the major source of energy that moves water through the water cycle? I hope answers popped in your head when we were going through these questions today. We'll do a little review activity to get any cobwebs out of our brain, and then we'll get ready to show what we know. We're going to do a claim, evidence, and reasoning today on STEM scopes, and then you guys will have some independent practice where you're able to show what knowledge you have gained during this water cycle unit. Now, all of our essential questions have a key word in each of them. The word that stands out to me is water or water cycle, even. We have been talking about the water cycle for the past couple days, doing different experiments and exploring with hands on activities, and even doing some reading to further our understanding of what's happening in the water cycle. Today is finally your day to show what you know. But before we get there, we're going to do a review activity with me as a class, and then you'll have a chance to show what you know independently. We talked about the water cycle. We drew different diagrams and were able to demonstrate the different ways that the water moved. We also learned some key different vocabulary words that help explain these. Let's go over some of those vocabulary words now. You don't have to write anything down, but listen closely. I may ask for your help at some times. Some of the key points in the water cycle are things like evaporation. Those are these squiggly lines we hear on the side. Remember, evaporation is when the water from the ground heats up and it's able to move into the clouds above us. And where do those clouds come from? Well, that's condensation. Clouds and condensation, they both start with C. I always like to remember it that way. But after the rain and the water is pulled up from the Earth's surface, it moves up into the sky and becomes condensation. It's little water particles that form different clouds and water vapors. And then eventually those turn into solids, and that gives us precipitation. Precipitation. Now, that's a fancy science word, but we use a lot of everyday nicknames for precipitation. And looking in this picture, I can even see an example of precipitation right next to that mountaintop and coming out of those clouds. Does anyone see what that is? What do we call that? If you need more time, pause the video and talk about what are some nicknames you think are for precipitation. I have some nicknames for precipitation, and I usually call it rain, or sometimes when it's not that intense, I just call it a drizzle. Precipitation is when those solid water droplets fall from the clouds in the sky and they come down onto the Earth's surface. Now, on the Earth's surface and even underneath the Earth, between rocks and breaks in the surface of the grass, We have a buildup of water in different places. That's the collection point. Now, we've talked about different places, kind of like puddles, about where this water can appear. There's some other places we talked about. You can even see some examples here on the bottom of our picture. Pause if you need more time to chat about it. Yeah, the water collects in a lot of different places on Earth. We have rivers, lakes, oceans, puddles, streams. All of these are examples of where the water collects, and then it will eventually be heated up and evaporated back up. Now, we talked about all these important vocabulary words for where the water is going or what the water is doing, but how is the water doing that? We missed a key part of the water cycle. So, how does the water go from the earth to the sky and then back down again in this continued cycle that is the water cycle? Well, it's always moving because of that one source of energy, that big source of energy in the sky that gives off heat. Let's look in that picture. What's that big source of energy that's in the sky? Everybody say it with me in three, two, one. The sun. Of course, the sun is a key part of the water cycle. It's what helps the water move to the different positions, and it what helps provide the different stages of the water cycle for us to see. Now, before I let you guys go talk a little bit more as a class about the water cycle, I'm going to quickly explain what activity you guys are going to do as a group today. The activity is called Claim, Evidence, Reasoning, and it's on STEM scopes. When you guys complete this activity, you'll be given a scenario. That means you'll be given a situation to read about first that relates to the science topic that we're talking about. Then you'll be given a prompt. A prompt is kind of like a question or something that makes you think about what is going on in the scenario. With the prompt, you guys will have to provide a claim, evidence, and reasoning. Three categories can be broken down simply as this. Your claim is a simple one sentence statement about the prompt that is given. After you have the claim, then you have to provide evidence. That's going to be your facts. Evidence can come from different activities that you've done in the past, different labs that you've used, or different conversations that you've had at a class. But the evidence needs to be facts. After you have your evidence and your claim, you're going to combine the two in your reasoning. In your reasoning, you're going to basically restate your claim in a full sentence and provide your evidence to back it up. Your reasoning should include information that was provided to you, and it should break down not only your evidence, but how it then backs up your claim. How do the two relate to each other? While you guys are completing this activity, there is a rubric that you can use to solve it. Let's look at that rubric together. The rubric is here on the screen. You can see it's broken down into three categories: claim, evidence, and reasonings. You can earn points for each of them. Today, as you do this as a class, it's important you participate so that you guys can earn the most points in each category. For your claim, you want to make sure it's accurate, which means it relates to the topic and it's a complete claim. It's a full sentence relating two things in the topic together. When you make your claim, if it's not a full sentence or it's not accurate, it doesn't relate to the science subject we're talking about, then you make it a 1 instead of a 2. Let's look at the evidence category. For evidence, you need to provide 2 or more pieces of evidence with labels and addresses variables, which means you basically need to provide different facts about the water cycle, not just talking about one thing. Kind of like we did in our example. We talked about where the water is moving in our water cycle, but we also talked about the different types of energy that was helping the water move in that water cycle. If we were able to provide 2 or more accurate facts, then we would get 2 points in this category. If we were only able to give 1 or 2 pieces of evidence, then we might not get full points for this. And remember, we want the most points as a team. The last category we're trying to earn points for is the reasoning category. In the reasoning category, you want to make sure that your evidence is connected to your claim and you use scientific principles and vocabulary. It's important to use that vocabulary that we have been talking about throughout this unit. By providing that information, we're able to see your scientific knowledge in full view. If you're not able to cite as much information and your claim and evidence are not connected, or they don't support one another, you may lose some points here. And remember, we're going for twos across the board. So, if you guys have questions about this rubric or you get confused when you're writing your claim, evidence, or reasoning as a class, make sure you raise your hand. I gave your teacher an example lesson that gives some example answers that you guys can look at as a class. So, scientists, that's all I have to say about the water cycle. Today, you're going to explore the scenario in your claim, evidence, and reasoning about Amy and her fourth grade teacher, Miss West. As you read the scenario, put yourself in Amy's shoes. You guys just did the same thing as Amy did, learning about the different water cycle processes. Once you put yourself in Amy's shoes, I think you guys will have a great chance at answering the claim, providing evidence, and then tying that all together in a reasoning. Make sure you listen carefully because at the end of today's lesson, you guys are going to get to show what you individually know in the end of unit assessment. Good luck, scientists. I know you guys got this, and I'll see you soon.